for a reason why the president would do that, and I'm coming up blank. It is my hope that there is some sort of strategic reason that he did that, but unfortunately, I cannot think of that reason.
Do you feel that this conversation could be staged before this visit?
You would think that. I'm not entirely sure why this conversation happened out in the open, unless this was supposed to be some effort at transparency. However, there are some things that you might want to say privately behind closed doors, and then you have the whole conference where everybody reads their scripted remarks. That is how I have seen pretty much every other White House meeting. I'm not sure why this one was different.
Also, the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, and Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, are ready to deploy troops to Ukraine, up to 30,000 European soldiers, and to send fighter jets to Ukraine to enforce a ceasefire deal. However, they're trying to get the US support for this mission, at least American jets in the air patrolling this demilitarized zone. What is your take on this idea, and can you imagine a scenario in which Trump supports this mission, at least by providing air cover for European troops?
I'm not entirely sure if the president would support this mission in his current state of mind. But this is a mission that both France and the United Kingdom can perform by themselves. They have the troops, they have the equipment, they have the ability, they have the airborne tanker assets and airborne early warning radar assets that can perform this mission. So this is something that France and the UK can perform on their own without America's help.
Also, during our previous interview, you said that Russia would collapse and Vladimir Putin is not ready to end this war. Do you feel that Donald Trump is ready to face this reality that Vladimir Putin doesn't want this war to be settled?
I'm not entirely sure, and I say that because if the United States agrees to sanction relief as part of the deal with Russia and Ukraine, then Russia is in for a softer landing, and the idea of people rebelling against Putin for putting them out of work, that kind of becomes a lower possibility. So I believe that the president might know that if the war stops tomorrow, Russia might fall apart. But if we pursue sanction relief, then Russia won't fall apart, and the deal might be good for America as well because we can sell our goods to Russia again. That might be the direction the president is heading in, which would be a favorable outcome to Russia.
And do you believe that reducing pressure on Russia would also force Putin, would only convince him to seek a peaceful settlement of the war?
I can't see how forcing or putting less pressure on an adversary would cause them to come to the table. Usually you put more pressure on them until they agree that the pressure is too much. So I'm not quite sure what the tactic is here.
On the other hand, we have J.D. Vance, U.S. Vice President, and during his latest interview, it seems like he is pretty confident in this uncertain strategy of Donald Trump. Moreover, he said that best way to prevent another Russia's invasion is to give Americans economic upside in the future of Ukraine. Also, he's saying that it's a better idea than deploying 20,000 troops from some random country that hasn't fought a war in 30 or 40 years. What is your reaction to this statement?
Well, I believe J.D. Vance may have forgotten the fact that both France and the UK fought in Afghanistan. The UK also fought in Iraq. So I believe that J.D. Vance, he might not be familiar with that. He didn't attain a very high rank in the military, and I don't believe he went to the kind of schools where you were taught that sort of thing.
Also, I would like to cover with you another interesting statements and Trump's national security advisor Mike Waltz and U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson are calling probably for a regime change in Ukraine. They said that President Zelensky should resign or seek peace in negotiations with Donald Trump. Have you expected such a U-turn in U.S. foreign policy? Because this is the same objective that has Vladimir Putin to decapitate Ukrainian government.
You know, Ukraine is a pretty resilient country. I'm sure President Zelensky could resign and someone else could take over. And the people could still fight if President Zelensky is the one thing in between receiving aid and not receiving aid. He may understand what he has to do. Even Winston Churchill recognized the writing on the wall toward the end. I can't make that decision. I don't know whether that would necessarily be a good decision or a bad decision. That's something only the president can understand. Sometimes doing the right thing is hard, and people aren't grateful for the things that you've done, and that's just life.
How do you see the things move forward tomorrow in the future? Is there a chance for a reset in the relations between Trump and President Zelensky?
I think that's always possible, and this could certainly be some sort of negotiation tactic that I am just not able to understand. I am a military guy. I am a weapons guy. I can tell you that when it comes to politics and negotiation, my way of negotiating is you shoot the bad guys until they decide to negotiate. That's how I negotiate. So President Trump's strategy is somewhat foreign to me and just not really something I'm able to fully articulate.
And also, it seems like J.D. Vance does not understand President Biden's strategy on Ukraine to support Ukraine as long as it takes, as you just mentioned, to shoot the bad guy until he surrenders and make some concessions to you. From your perspective, why is there such a misunderstanding, and why don't they understand the strategy to put more pressure on Putin? Because after the first day of President Trump in the White House, there were some signs that he could put more pressure on Putin. He threatened sanctions against Vladimir Putin. He threatened tariffs. Why did he change his mind?
I don't know. And the funny thing about this is that it could just be as simple as in the United States, our political environment is very contentious. And so if the Democrats were for one thing, then you must need to be against it. And it could just simply come down to that. We could have a vice president who isn't very well educated when it comes to global affairs or even military affairs. And he just doesn't seem to understand the consequences of his actions. But if the former President Biden was for something, then he knows that it's good politics to be against it. And it could just be as simple as that.
And do you feel that there is a chance that Donald Trump can change his mind again and begin to understand that Vladimir Putin is the biggest obstacle for a peaceful settlement?
The president could change his mind 3 times in one day. So that is always a possibility.
And don't you think there are some discussions in Ukraine and around the globe that the reason is why Donald Trump is putting pressure on Ukraine but not on Russia, because early stages of negotiations between US and Russia have failed because they didn't have any kind of success in that. That's why they try to put pressure on Ukraine instead. What is your take on that?
No, I think that President Trump just wants the war ended, and he doesn't particularly care who wins or loses, or at least in this case, who loses and who loses more. because both Russia and Ukraine